webinar is primarily to help you build your first smart contract and mint your first token. The token economy, the tokens govern the world of cryptocurrencies, which is one part of the blockchain ecosystem. This is one application. There is a lot to it. We have supply chain, we have logistics, we have pharmacy. Blockchain has actually revolutionized the way industries work. It has brought efficiency to the whole ecosystem. But as we have seen that cryptocurrencies has been one of the first applications of blockchain. And with this, the webinar today or the workshop today will be revolving around how to build your first smart contract and mint your first ERC20 token. And Luv would give you, not only tell you how to do that, but also would give you a demo of how to do and mint your first token. Over to you, Luv. Meanwhile, guys, to my audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them on the chat box or the Q&A box. We'll be happy to answer them. If you are a non-blockchain developer, I'm sure you would have a lot of questions for our favorite developer, Jyoti. And if you're a blockchain developer and you would like to know more, please put up your questions. We are all here to answer. Thank you. Over to you, Luv.
Okay. So hi everyone. So today we are going to walk through how you can write your own smart contract, your own very own first smart contract, and make your own token and then deploy it. So I'm just setting up Remix.
So Luv, are we starting with the demo?
Yeah, Rishabh, that's what I'm setting up.
Fantastic. Okay, very interesting question has come up. What is the difference between blockchain and Hyperledger? So, and this, I think a lot of you would be having this question in your mind. Essentially, blockchain, Hyperledger is a blockchain itself, right? But blockchain could be permissioned or permissionless. So for a lot of enterprises, when blockchain came into existence, and it was a public blockchain where the source code and everything was openly available on the and transparent on the chain, a lot of enterprises thought that this might not work out. Public blockchains might not work for some enterprises which might not want to share the data with everyone. So for example, they might have some levels on which data sharing can happen. And that's when permission blockchains such as Hyperledger came into existence. And that's the difference between a public blockchain and a Hyperledger. But essentially, both of them are blockchains. So let's start with the introduction. And we would request you to be on camera.
Okay, sure. Can you all see me?
Yeah.
Okay, so all of y'all must have heard about this buzzword called blockchain. It has been like you must have been hearing it for quite a few years now. So what do you think is the main advantage of I don't know like the amount of knowledge our users have, so that's why I'm starting from scratch. So what is the main what is the main advantage of blockchain? Like why are people so fascinated by the word blockchain, and why do they want to use it so much? So the main thing is it is a trustless system. It basically everything that happens on the blockchain is public, except for a few blockchains which are private as well. But the popular blockchains which we talk about, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, these blockchains are public, and anything and everything that happens, anyone can verify it, and there is nothing going on like under the hood. And basically, it's trustless. So that's why people are so fascinated by blockchain nowadays. So take the very first blockchain which came into existence. That is the Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a very limited use case because basically you cannot implement smart contracts on Bitcoin. It is just a public ledger. It's a distributed ledger. I'll give you an example. So when you go to a bank and you deposit a check, So basically, you want to do a transaction, you want to make a transaction, you want to transfer money to someone else's account. So here you have to trust a third party. You have to trust the bank that they will carry out your transactions for you, and without altering the transaction on the way in any way. So this is the beauty of blockchain. On the blockchain, you don't have to trust anyone. It is a trustless system, and whatever you have done, it is always going to stay on the blockchain. So the first one was Bitcoin, which is basically just a distributed ledger. Then came on Ethereum. So Ethereum has added advantages, which is that you can deploy smart contracts on that. And smart contracts, basically, it sounds fancy, but it's not so fancy. It's just a piece of code which lives forever on the blockchain. So I guess some of you must be familiar with JavaScript here. So Solidity, which is the language which we use to write smart contracts in Ethereum, Solidity has a syntax which is closest to JavaScript, which I think. So if you are even a tad bit familiar with JavaScript, I don't think it's going to be much of a challenge for you to write smart contracts in Solidity.
So that was a very good insight as far as, I being a non-blockchain developer, or I don't belong to the developer community. So if someone is familiar with JavaScript, so it's very easy for them to learn Solidity. So I'm sure that this webinar, when it talks about building a first smart contract, would be very easy for the JavaScript developers to learn and grasp this understanding.
And Rishabh, I also want to add few things like, for example, if I told you about my journey, it was like a funny moment when I heard about the blockchain and people like my with my senior, I am just traveling somewhere in a cab, and he told me that a new term blockchain has been come. So he just read the article, and after that he said to me, after reading that article, whatever he is not able to understand, he said, just figure it out. These are the two words, like block and the chain. And when I go deep inside it, I just find it's a new word, new era, and the whole paradigm of the technology has been changed after blockchain. Like, people are putting so many things there, people are making so many projects, and as I have already told you that blockchain is only the infrastructure. To present your idea, to make a business perfect, you need other technologies like mean, man, whatever you are good in. So it's not only the JavaScript. I think the developer who has clear logics, who have skills to code, can do coding on blockchain versus smart contracts.
Wow, what a brilliant insight, Jyoti. That, it's actually just two words, block and change. That's it.
Block and chain.
It's just because the first step is always a difficult step. I think that is something that has stopped a lot of developers out there or people out there to learn about it. But it's just about any other new language that can come up, and it's just about taking the first step. And I'm sure this
Good.
webinar would be the first step for a lot of people out there who would be looking at viewing this and would be learning from this, and your insights would be really helpful for them. And
Good.
when we talk about, okay, while we say this, and you also mentioned a very important point, that it's not just the infrastructure, because blockchain is just the infrastructure, underlying infrastructure on which data sharing is happening, data transferring is happening. But when you present a product to the world to use it, you just cannot go and give them a blockchain. Hey guys, use this for your. Even if we talk about a simple, let's say, crowdfunding smart contract, right? So
Correct.
when you talk about such a basic smart contract, it's not just a smart contract code cannot actually do anything for these for the people to use it. What is required is how you are integrating it with your centralized technologies so that it becomes usable. The UI looks like anyone can use it without even interacting or without even knowing that there is some complex technologies behind it, right? And
Behind.
that's the importance of how a blockchain developer and other technologies developer has to work together to make a product. And
Correct.
I think that brings us to a very important point again, that if you are a non-blockchain developer, then this is an opportunity for you to come in, partner up with a team that has already has a blockchain developer and build a product. You just need to have an idea, and we will help you as TDeFi BizThon. We will help you with the resources that are required, the mentorship that is required, and the assistance that is required to build your product. We have our blockchain developer back with us. Over to you, Love. I think today would be a great session to have a live smart contract being built on in front of everyone.
Yeah, that's right, Rishabh. So everyone, I'm really sorry for the delay. Actually, I was just setting up on a new system. So it's all been done. So I think I was at how Solidity is very close to, like the syntax is pretty close to JavaScript. So what is a contract? Uh, most of you must be familiar with the OOPS concepts. So uh, a contract is basically you can visualize it as a class in JavaScript or in any other language. It's basically a class, and once you deploy it onto the blockchain, it is an instance of the class that is living on the blockchain. And in the beginning, when I started my journey, so then once you have deployed the contract, you couldn't make any changes to the contract whatsoever. Now also it is the same, but now there are a few workarounds that have been found by Open Zeppelin and many others that we can deploy upgradable smart contracts, which means that the logic lives in a separate contract, and the actual values which it is storing, that lives in a separate contract. So if you want to change the logic, you can change the logic and deploy that contract again while uh, preserving your values as it is. So without any further delay, let's make a token of our own today. So do I have the share permission?
Yeah, I think you have it. You're the
Yeah.
co-host.
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
a lot excited to make our own token.
Yeah. Okay. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes, it's quite visible.
Okay. So what I've done here is, so I'm not sure if any of you is familiar with Open Zeppelin or not. It is a very standard. Uh, it is the very standard for smart contracts in the Ethereum blockchain space. Like you can take it like it's an npm package kind of a thing for the JavaScript developers. It's an npm package which you can use to inject the smart contracts automatically and then use it inside your own smart contracts, your customized one. So what I have done here is, I hope the code is visible, or should I zoom in a little bit?
No, I think it's visible. We can start with each section to help our audience understand how to go about each of those functions.
Okay, so this is the smart contract which we are going to be deploying today. The name is Beton, and it is a basic ERC20 token. What it does is, as soon as we deploy it in the constructor, we give the initial supply to it. So whoever is deploying the contract, they will have the initial supply number of tokens in their wallet as soon as the contract is deployed. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is the class, and inside this are various functions. So this is the constructor function, which runs only once. This is going to run only when the contract is deployed and never again. After this, there is the mint function, which we'll use to mint tokens to any address that we want. Why we have only these two functions is we have inherited the ERC20 contract inside the Beton contract. So I'm going to walk you through a little more of the ERC20 functions. Let me zoom in a little bit. I can't see. Okay. Yeah, so now it's much better. So there are various types of functions inside a smart contract. Here you can see that inside the ERC20 contract also, we have imported, like inherited various other contracts also. So these are the data types, the basic data types in Solidity, which we use. This one is for maintaining each address's balances. This one is for maintaining allowances. So what is allowances? Allowances is basically if I want to transfer some of my tokens to Rishabh, but like I don't want to do it on my own. Let's say I want Jyoti to do it on behalf of me. So I will allow Jyoti to transfer some amount of tokens to anyone he wants. So I'll allow Jyoti for a particular amount, and then he can transfer up to that amount to any address that he wants. Here are a few more variables. This is the total supply. That is the total number of tokens in circulation for the BTON token. And this is the name and symbol of the token. This is the constructor. As I told you earlier, this is executed only once when you're deploying the smart contract. Here are a few more functions. I won't go into much details of these because these are like we don't interact with them much. But I'll tell you about the modifiers. So these things which you write after the function name, these are called modifiers. So what this means is the public modifier means that this function is accessible from anywhere you want. Like it is accessible from inside the contract as well. It is accessible from other contracts, and you can also access it from individual accounts. The view function means that the view modifier means that this function does not use up any gas. As in, when you call this function, your transaction will cost 0. There will be no transaction cost whatsoever. This is just a read function. So once you call this function, it will return the name of the token to you. This is a virtual modifier, which is it is a new addition. When I started coding in Solidity, this wasn't there. So what they use this now, what they use this function for now is that if you want others to like inherit your contract and then override these functions, so you can write this function in your own contracts, and when they inherit your contracts, they can override your function and write the logic over it again. So this is what virtual and override does. And here you see what we return once the function is run. So this is the name and symbol functions. Nowadays, ERC20 and OpenZeppelin, they have hard-coded the decimal values to 18. Earlier, it wasn't so. Earlier, you could set the decimal values on your own. And the decimal value is so high because in Ethereum, there is no concept of fractions and floating point numbers. You can only deal with integers. That's it. So that's why we keep such a high decimal value. Yes, so let's get down to business. This is the transfer function, which helps us transfer our own tokens to any other address that we want. So here you can put in the recipient address. So suppose I want to transfer some tokens to Rishabh. I'll put down his address here. I'll put down the amount. So here's the tricky part. In the amount, suppose I want to transfer 100 tokens. So I'm going to put in 100 followed by the number of decimals. That means I'm going to put 100 inside and I'm going to append 18 zeros to that, such that 100 tokens of mine are transferred to Rishabh. So this is the basic transfer function. And here's the approve one, which I told you earlier about allowances. So here you can approve any address you want, and you can allow them to transfer tokens on your behalf from your own wallet. So I guess that's it. Yeah, there's another one, transfer from. Transfer from is the function that you use when you want to transfer tokens from some other address's wallet to some other address. So these are the basic functionalities of an ERC20 token. It's pretty simple. And now let's go ahead and actually deploy our token, which is the BizThon token. So first we are going to connect to first we're going to connect to Metamask, which will provide us a way to interact with the testnet where we're going to deploy our token.
So just to let some of these audience know, Metamask is a Web3 wallet which you can integrate with all of these for all to access decentralized platforms, and you can store your assets, your block crypto assets, or rather the decentralized assets in this wallet called Metamask. Now, what Luv has done is he has connected to the Ethereum test network, which is called as linked by test network. You can learn we can have more sessions on about these test nets and mainnets.
Okay, so Rishabh is right. Metamask is basically an extension. It basically is a wallet which takes care of all your accounts, and whenever you want to sign transactions or sign messages, you can do that using your Metamask wallet. Rishabh, you can take on for a few minutes here.
We have a question that will you be sharing the recording? Yes, you will be getting the access to this recording on our YouTube channel probably in 24 hours from now. We'll be uploading the entire video. It's being live streamed as well, and we'll be uploading its separate portion as well, where you can access and see these contacts and functions. We'll also be uploading a file in a description, which will help, or resources in our description of the video, where you can check out more of such recordings and videos of the webinars that are happening. And if you are registering yourself at the TDeFi Hackathon, BizThon, then you would be getting emails with all of these invitations of the webinars and more resources that we'll be sharing with you, which will help you to build products on for this hackathon. So what I understand from this conversation up till now, Jyoti, is that it's just about few functions that needs to be put together, and then that makes a smart contract. Is it that simple?
Yeah, Rishabh, like when you are looking for these files, you will see like this is quite simple. But when you start typing it by yourself, then it's quite complex because you have to understand each and everything. As Luv has explained beautifully, that each and every point in those functions. So I think it depends on your ability to understand things, as I have said. Like for example, if you are doing coding in JavaScript, C, or any other language, so it's quite easy for you to understand because you really know the basic concepts of the programming. So I think the basic concepts should be clear, and after that you can take over to blockchain or any other technology, whatever you want.
Wow, very nice. Thank you. Over to you, Luv. I think you're back.
And for our users, please don't get intimidated by that. It's just a start. You can always look more into it and grow, like I did. It took me a few years, but I'm here now.
But don't worry, guys. You will not take years. Luv, being an early adopter of blockchain, had to learn everything on its own. So that's why it took time for him. But when we talk about today, the resources are easily available. This webinar itself, is a summation or is comprehensive enough to build a first smart contract. So today you might just learn in few days, or rather a couple of weeks or so, but it will be as easy as it looks. So I'm sure just take that first step and get it going.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think that's how the learning
Over to you,
works.
Luv.
You have to.
Yeah.
Okay, so now as you can see, we are connected to the Rinkyb network and we are ready to deploy our first token. I mean, not first, our own token. Here you can put any name you want, and here you put the symbol. So symbols usually are 3 or 4 letters. Anything bigger than that is not very attractive. And here in the initial supply, suppose we want to mint 500 tokens. So I'm going to put 500 there, and I'm going to append 18 zeros, like we said earlier. Yeah. So when I press on transact here, can you see it now? Can you see MetaMask now, Rishabh?
Yeah, Love. Yeah, it's
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah. So as you can see, MetaMask has popped up, and what this does is basically it's managing our wallet, like I told you, and it is asking for our permission to confirm this transaction or not. So here you can see a few things. Here is the maximum fees that is going to be spent in this transaction. This is the total fees that's going to be spent. And here you can edit the gas price. So the more gas price you give, the more it's going to cost you. And the less you give, the less it's going to cost you. But the catch here is the more you give, the more the Ethereum miners are incentivized to pick up your transaction first. So the higher you give it, the quicker it's going to be. Your transaction is going to go through. And you can also check the status of your transaction on MetaMask. This is our transaction. You can look for it here, and it will show you the status here. As you can see, it's still pending.
So just for our users to know, EtherScan is the blockchain explorer for
Exactly.
transactions happening on the Ethereum, the ERC20 transactions that are happening. This is how transparent blockchain is. Any transaction is easily visible here. Who sent it? When was it sent? Everything is so transparent, so visible that there is no scope of any fraud that can happen during the transaction.
Right. And not just for ERC20 transactions, it's actually an explorer for all the transactions that happen on the blockchain, like related to any smart contract. And even if it's a normal currency transfer, let's say you're just transferring Ether to someone, even that is recorded here, and you can check. So as you can see, the transaction went through, and now there'll be an instance of the contract. Yeah, here it is. So here is our BTON contract, and you must be wondering why some of the buttons are blue and some of the buttons are orange. So the blue buttons, like I told you, these are the view functions. These do not cost any gas. So when you call them, you'll see that MetaMask is not popping up because it does not need our permission to run these. These are just functions which do not cost anything. They just read functions. They're just reading data from the blockchain, not changing any states on the blockchain. So to verify if our deployment was successful, we'll just check a few view functions. So as you can see, the name is perfect, the symbol is perfect, and the total supply as well. Decimals is 18, which is hard coded, so that had to be. So now what we're going to do is we're going to check the balance of my address. So I put in 500 BTON, which should be my balance right now. So I'll put my address here and I'll call it, and you can see 500 BTON. And for those people who find this a bit difficult to read because you have to get rid of the 18 zeros first, there's another easy way which MetaMask provides. So all you need is the address of the token. You can go to MetaMask and you go to assets and add token. Here you put down your contract address. It reads the symbol and the decimals on its own. And here you can see we have 500 BTON in our wallet.
Wow. So we have our first, we have minted our token called BTON.
Yes. So
Fantastic.
yeah, we have 500 BTON.
I think it's quite easy. It's just about taking the first step. And I think with all your assistance and we people who are listening to this, who are viewing this, please feel free to reach out to our team. We'll organize more webinars and more workshops for you. We are here to encourage you all to start your journey in this blockchain ecosystem. Start building these smart contracts. Learn about how you can solve real life problems using blockchain. And with this, not taking a lot of time, I'd like to invite Luv and Jyoti for their closing arguments and the closing thoughts. We'll start with you, Jyoti. What do you think? So we have these functions now, and I'm sure if I present this whole screen to a retail user, they would not like to use it. But if I definitely code it in a way that makes it that tempts the user to use it and without understanding what's going on in these functions, I think that. What do you want to say about that?
So, Rishabh, as I already mentioned, because whenever you are presenting, the blockchain is only the infrastructure. Okay, for presenting your idea, you need a simple UX. Nowadays, as DEX the DEX is the most beautiful and simple example of implementing blockchains. If you see the user, you can't have to tell the user what to do there. There is only 3 functions, and user can easily use those functions. If I talk about Metamask is another thing that user are using. Correct. For deploying a transaction, for getting your wallet things, for wallet balance, you are using Metamask, and it's a simple solution which is on your browser. Whenever you want, you can use it. You can transfer the tokens to other users and all these things. So exactly like whatever blockchain does, but at least at the end you need a presentation using different technologies for presenting your idea and to reach to the masses. So that's how the other technologies helps the blockchain, and without other, I don't think like blockchain should be like popular and reach to the masses.
Very nice. So we have two proponents of different technologies. We have blockchain developer. We have someone who has been working with full stack. Thank you so much, guys. It was a fantastic session. Thank you so much, Luv, for the demo. We really appreciate to you guys to take out the time and help our audience to understand. We'll catch up again, guys. Let's stay connected. Keep watching us on YouTube, and subscribe to this channel, and also do read your emails. You might have to sometimes check your spam box and make it, you just have to ensure that you mark it as important so that you can receive all the updates that's happening in the TDeFi BizThon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you, Rishabh.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.